we will look ahead at some of the main contenders for the Kentucky Derby this year. Now, this is Catching Freedom, who last time around and more recently, back on the 23rd of March, was a very impressive winner of the Louisiana Derby. Now, he comes right round the outside. They did go quite hard on the front end in this contest. There were a few useful horses in here. I'd say, arguably, this is almost the strongest Derby form we've got going forward towards Churchill Downs. As I say, he comes right round the outside in the blue colours. He's one of the only horses, really, to make up a great deal of ground. But in here, you've got Agate Road, who's a horse back in about 7th on that far rail. Honor Marie, the horse in orange colours, is ridden by Ben Curtis, finishes back in 2nd. But Catching Freedom, I'd say very much, is a horse to contend with going forward. He will be on the shortlist and also will be found fairly high in the market on the day. As will this guy. This is Timberlake, who's going to come right round the outside here. We've got the second placed runner in the green and the yellow just on the inside rail. But Timberlake was a very good juvenile last year. Now, this race was a little while ago. We're looking back at a few weeks for the Grade 2 Rebel. I don't think this race was overly strong, I must say. Common Defence, the horse on the rail, he has finished 5th subsequently in another qualifier for the Kentucky Derby. But I do think Timberlake will have to improve off the back of this. He did get a Bear Speed figure rating in the early 90s. Christian Torres did drop his reins late on in the piece as well. That didn't help. That's why he did just jink towards the right late on in the day. I do think Timberlake is very much a contender. He's a horse that I have bet anti-post, but he has got more to prove. We will see him on Sky Sports Racing this weekend. He runs in the Arkansas Derby, where he'll face off against Muth. That will be a big, big challenge for Timberlake. Now, we move on to the Tampa Bay Derby. This was a few weeks ago where a horse that you've already spoke about in Domestic Product in part 1 of the Road to the Kentucky Derby. He's going to take another step forward here. He'll beat this horse in orange called No More Time, who managed to win last time around in the Sam F. Davis. He beat Agate Road on that occasion. That's the sort of form that we're dealing with. My gut feeling is that this form might not quite be good enough to be winning a Kentucky Derby. However, Domestic Product, he's already got enough points to go straight to Churchill Downs. If they do want to go that way, then that's absolutely fine. He will be a shorter run. He does battle late on in the piece, and he's getting stronger the longer the race goes on. I think Churchill will suit him down to the ground, but it's just a case of whether Domestic Product is good enough. And speaking of are you good enough, enter Conquest Warrior. Now, we know very little about this guy. Fans of Tom Collins will know a little bit because he's tipped this horse anti-post at a big price. He's still available at a big price as well. And the horse in 2nd here, Merit, he was meant to go for the Fountain of Youth a few weeks ago. He was one of many non-runners in that race. But this is only an allowance optional claiming, so we're not talking about stakes action. But just the way that Conquest Warrior travels through this contest does make you think that he could be potentially quite smart. He's obviously got a lot to build on off the back of this, and we will see him try and build on that this Saturday on Sky Sports Racing, because he's going to run in the Florida Derby over at Gulfstream Park once again. The likes of Hades will be in there as well. It will be a action-packed race. Obviously, no locked on the Kentucky Derby trail this year, but Conquest Warrior, he might just be a name to note. So there are 4 names to look out for in the coming weeks, some of them sooner rather than later. We'll take a look at these standings regards to the Kentucky Derby as well, because as I say, it is a point system. Generally, you want around about 40 points or so to get in. So No More Time on 45, he's going to be okay. Chasing Freedom's absolutely okay. He's 125. Endlessly won at Turfway Park at the weekend. He's got 100 points. Track Phantom, West Saratoga. Timberlake, as we mentioned, Honor Marie's in there as well. Dornock has qualified. He was 1 to 14 when he managed to win that Fountain of Youth, but he's got a bit to prove. And Sierra Leone's an interesting one. He's got 55 points currently, but as we'll see regards to the betting, Sierra Leone is the one who sits atop of the market. He was impressive last time around. He might just need the surface a little bit sloppy, but that can happen at Churchill. 6 to 1 for Sierra Leone. 10 to 1 Catching Freedom, Forever Young at 12s. Timberlake at 14 to 1, as I say, he'll try and prove himself at the weekend. 14 to 1 for Fierceness, the Breeders' Cup champion. Dornock is 14 to 1. 20's Conquest Warrior. 20 to 1 Mystic Dan, Deterministic. And also Hades, 25s and bigger. The rest, that is you up to date on the Kentucky Derby of 2024.